And I think it's hard for us sometimes to even understand, like, you know, how do we feel loved? How do we define it?
Yeah, because I think in all relationships, whether it's our personality type or the love languages, we tend to give people what we want.
Knowing what your love languages are, even as a single person, allows you to now, as you engage in or explore a relationship, right from the beginning, you can set the foundation of what matters for you.
And he drove all the way across town in rush hour, over an hour, just to come and give me a hug and take me for a walk. And there didn't have to be any conversation about it. It was just he just knew that's what I needed.
Welcome to today's podcast. We are talking about 5 love languages. Excited for this show. We're excited for every show, but this one we've talked quite a bit about doing for like a while.
We have.
Yeah. And so I'm excited we're doing it, the 4 of us too, because I think really what we want to dive into is talking about it, how it shows up in couples. So 5 love languages. What are they?
Well, there's physical touch is one of them.
Yep.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quality time.
Yeah.
Acts of service.
Yeah.
Which one are we missing?
Gifts.
Gift giving.
Good job.
Yeah.
I didn't even prep you for the quiz.
No.
Well done,
Right.
Chris.
And at the risk, this show is either going to be a really great conversation or the most fucking awkward one we've ever had.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're warning you ahead of time, folks.
So the 5 love languages came born out of Gary Chapman in the early 90s.
Yep.
And it was really just a way of framing how an individual likes to receive love. And I think it's hard for us sometimes to even understand, like, you know, how do we feel loved? How do we define it? And what I love about this way of sort of framing it is that it kind of puts it into 5 buckets and it helps you figure out what means the most to you when someone's loving on you. And so, Rob, go ahead.
Because I love the fact that it puts the focus, it helps for me understanding what Wendy's love languages are, I can shift from communicating or interacting in the way that I like to receive it to someone else. It's no different than the DISC stuff that we do, where we often talk about personality assessments, when you shift your communication style to how the other person receives. So if you want to express love effectively, using something like love languages, and there's so many different models out there, but using those models is absolutely an incredible way to connect with what really resonates with your partner.
Yeah. And I think what we'll talk about today is just like, how do you communicate that to your partner?
Yeah.
Right. So first step is what do you need? And then it's also like, how do I then communicate that to my partner?
Yeah, because I think in all relationships, whether it's our personality type or the love languages, we tend to give people what we want.
Yeah.
So, for example, if words of affirmation are a love language that you really respond well to, that's probably what you give out constantly. And that works great if your partner or the people in your life respond well to words of affirmation. Yeah. But if they're speaking a different language, if they receive it differently, it doesn't have the same impact. And I think that's often why there's miscommunication, misunderstanding in relationships, is we're like, well, I'm giving you something here, but it's not landing the same way, but I'm not present to the fact that it's not landing the same way. And then resentment can build in, and you kind of like, well, I'm trying, but you're not seeing it. So I think getting clear on what your partner needs, again, and likewise, they knowing what you need, you can give each other what you need, more of that anyway, rather than what you want.
Yeah, and I think it's important too. I mean, we recognize that not everyone listening to our podcast is in a relationship. So if you're single and you're listening in or watching in, don't just tune out now and go, well, this one's not for me. Knowing what your love languages are, even as a single person, allows you to now, as you engage in or explore a relationship, right from the beginning, you can set the foundation of what matters for you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And Chapman wrote about it. He actually wrote his original book, 1992, was the 5 love languages.
Yeah, okay.
He's since written book. One is devoted to the 5 love languages as a single person, because it's not just for romantic relationships. Obviously, we're going to be focusing in on that angle today because we're talking about it from a couple's perspective. But whether it's with your kids, your coworkers, your friends, understanding again what the other person responds to puts you in a position to serve their need and build a much stronger bond. much stronger rapport,
Yeah.
regardless of the nature of the relationship
Yeah,
itself.
I love that. So before we dive into, because we're going to go into each one of those 5, which I think is great, and talk about what they are and what they mean for us. But really at the foundation of it, we're really talking about like love. So I'd love to know from each of you, when's a time that you kind of really felt super loved and connected with your partner? I'm looking at Rob.
Yeah.
Well, you just got married.
You just got married.
Yeah, let me just, I'll just talk with my hand like this for a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now, really.
It took me a second to clue in what you were doing.
Yeah.
You're showing off the rings.
I'm showing up my ring.
I'm a little slow. It must be the cough set.
Exactly.
The
Yeah,
For sure.
that's right. Now, I know that this episode, of course, we got married like 4 minutes ago.
It's been a minute.
It's interesting. You said at the beginning that this might be really awkward episode, and part of the awkwardness was in our prep work. We insider information. We prep for these conversations, and we have notes in front of us, hence the iPads. But when I was prepping for it, I was like, holy shit, like a moment. How do I come up with a moment?
Yeah.
And because I think the way I responded to this was every friggin' time Wendy looks at me, almost every time Wendy looks at me, almost every time.
Except when you fucked up.
Is this where it gets awkward?
That's a
didn't
very
come to me-
different
That
look.
didn't come to me with my notes, but it did just then. It was like, well, no, there's a few times when she looks at me that I feel loved, but also a little feared.
Just a little cold.
Yes. No, but I think for me, how certainly one of the ways that has shown up is in those moments of self-doubt, in those moments of where I just need to be heard, or I'm just struggling with something. She really is my biggest cheerleader and my biggest fan, and that shows up. And in those moments where when I am having a conversation with Wendy, there are times where I feel like I can do anything because of what I'm feeling from her and the support I'm getting from her. And I think that's probably when I feel loved the most.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I came up with a moment, but to your point, there's lots of moments. I remember one day in particular, I was having a very challenging day with my daughters after they had, said that they no longer wanted to live with me and they wanted to live with their dad full time, and just the bucket of tears and just navigating through that conversation as they packed up their stuff and literally left that day. I'm getting all yucky just thinking about it. Anyways, but I remember texting Rob, and he drove all the way across town in rush hour, over an hour, just to come and give me a hug and take me for a walk. And there didn't have to be any conversation about it. It was just he just knew that's what I needed. And
Wow.
Love that.
You've never driven across town for me.
Yeah.
You've never taken me for a walk.
So that's,
There we go.
So that's
There we
not
go,
that's
right?
not true. I drove to Syracuse.
Oh my God, you totally did.
you fucker.
You didn't drive.
How
Well,
did
to
you
be
not?
fair, you didn't drive across town. You drove across the fucking province.
I drove to another country.
You did. So when I lost my passport.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to come get me. He literally, as we're crossing back around, the border guard says to Rob, "So how long have you been in the States?" He says, "Oh, about 10 minutes."
Yeah.
You're right. I take that back. I
Thank
take
you.
that
There you
back.
go.
Yeah.
How
What
about for you guys?
What, me?
Yeah.
You're looking at me?
am.
No, I think for me, it's not one moment, but it was a few of these moments that kind of over time. And it was that you just let me show up exactly how I am with no judgment. There's never a moment where I can't tell you something where I'm like, you're gonna leave and walk out. So that place I have never had before. So for me, and it's shown up in weird pockets. Like, and I joke about this, but when I let you in my basement, and you know my basement, and that, like, it's weird things like that. And then there's obviously like heavier emotional things that I've shared about my past. And you just show up and you just love on me for me.
Yeah.
And so that for me is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was, I think like all of you, like, it's hard to kind of pinpoint to a moment. It's more like a trajectory, I guess, an arc. But I do recall when we were first getting to know each other, and we were taking our time, and you had signaled very early on, like, I need to take my time, I need to go slow, and I was okay with that. That was actually a good thing for me too, to slow down. And I remember the moment we were at your kitchen counter.
I remember.
At the island, and I finally told you that I love you. I didn't lead with that. That took some time to get there. And I was fully prepared. This was not about me putting pressure on you to reciprocate in that moment. It was, even if you're not ready, if you had said, thank you, I'm still not there yet, I need to communicate that to you. And in that moment, when you did reciprocate, I remember I was like nervous as all hell.
I've never seen Eric nervous. Oh my God, he got there. He was all like, I'm like, what's going on?
So gosh, gee, I dig you. I think
No, I didn't do that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, shock.
Yeah, but that was a real moment for me. Yeah, it was a beautiful
Amazing.
moment.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Now that I'm all warm inside. Okay, let's dive into the first one. So words of affirmation. So this is really like using words to affirm. But say,
Thank you. Wow,
I know
you looked that up, didn't you?
Yeah,
ChatGPT helped. Yeah.
really helped. No, but using words to support your partner. Like, I believe in you. I think you're beautiful. I love you because.
Yeah.
So can we talk about kind of how that shows up for you, and how do you feel, or give an example of when your partner like does that and speaks kindly or says something to support you? How does that show up for you? How does that make you feel?
There's two different feelings that come to play for me. First of all, one of my core values centers around the notion of respect, and it's a really important thing for me. I like to show respect to people, like to be respected, and often how Wendy communicates to me, the words and the language she uses really demonstrates that the high esteem that she holds as she encourages and she says those words, and so it obviously makes me feel incredibly good. Makes me again, gives me that sense of I can run through a brick wall or whatever I can do. I've got a superpower thanks to what she says. It's also at times incredibly awkward, and that's because I'm not used to it. It's not been something that I've experienced in the past to any level or degree that Wendy does it. And there are times where she'll be saying something, and I almost want to be okay, enough, right? And even my diss style being an S, it's like, okay, avert that attention off myself, and I want to kind of, but I don't do that. I want, because I do want to receive it because I know the energy gives. So it's a dual feeling of this is absolutely amazing, but okay, enough.
Yeah.
Right. Trying to figure that part out.
Yeah.
For me, kind of going back to that positive self-worth and self-esteem, it's something I've struggled with. And having the ability to feel very seen and heard on very specific things that I struggle with. So I've talked in the past about imposter syndrome, moments of self-doubt, and oftentimes the words that Rob says, or even not the words he says, but just his body language just makes me feel very seen and heard. Almost like a lifeline that then allows me to have that courage to move forward without any shame or embarrassment.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same for me. Very similar. It's that it's feeling heard more for me. And we've talked about this, but like, you know, if something big is happening in my life, like you're the first person to be like, how'd it go? How's it? Or like, is it going to be like, you're always, it's new for me to say something, and then for my person to understand that there's emotion behind that. Like there's this big thing. It's not like you're like, good luck, go knock him dead. It's like, babe, I'm thinking about you. Like it's understanding the connection behind it. And so feeling heard when you say something, for me is everything. Yeah.
This one is an interesting one for me because there was a time in my life where this would have been my number one. Yeah. And although it still would be in my top three, it's shifted. And I think a big part of that is because there was a hole that words of affirmation filled for me because of my the low self-esteem I carried and the deep shame I carried for so long. And you'll remember the words to this song, the song by Dean Lewis called Half a Man. I quoted them back in episode number 3, which was really became when I came across the song, really was the, I'm not going to sing it. Don't worry.
Oh, no. That's too bad.
Oh, you want me to sing it?
Sure, sing it.
No, we're not going to sing it. But he talks about, wah, wah, wah. He says, I've been running from my demons, afraid to look behind. I've been running from myself, afraid of what I'd find. And how could I give you all of me when I'm only half a man? Because I'm a sinking ship that's burning, so let go of my hand. How can I give you all of me when I'm only half a man? So for me, I think for so long, it was really unfair to the people around me to put this expectation to plug that hole. And having made that shift now, moving more and more into radical self-acceptance. And I think that's always an ongoing work in progress, right? I don't know if you ever fully get there, but making progress, that I still resonate deeply with that. It still speaks to me, but it's gone from, it just resonates to, from I need it to feel whole, to it just speaks to me deeply now about appreciation, safety, and being heard.
You know, I love that you bring that up and you say it that way, because it's important. And maybe this is something after we kind of go through the 5, we unpack this, or we unpack it now, is this idea that when we to put on someone else the need for any of these languages to feel complete, to be who you are, is so unfair to another human being, right?
Yes.
To put that on,
it's unfair on the relationship.
It's unhealthy to the relationship, and yet so many people do that. We need to find, for example, my worth is not based on or dependent on the words that Wendy brings to me. It has to be internal. Now, what she says to me can build on that and can be a reminder. You know, I didn't know we were quoting songs today, but right, like our like the song that we played it. It was playing when I asked her to marry me. It's Here Comes My Girl, and the whole premise of the song is, you know, this guy who's, you know, when everything is going tough, or when I'm feeling down, or when I'm feeling discouraged, or I'm looking at the world and wondering where's the hope, or anything like that, here comes my girl. And I think certainly that's where she brings that to me. But it's not the completing of me. It's not the fixing of me or filling the hole or the gap. And that's so important for couples and for singles to recognize, is don't lean on somebody else to fill the missing piece.
The language, and even the in many wedding ceremonies and all the romance stuff that's out there, there's so much bullshit in that language. You know, the two shall become one, as though you're half a person until you meet your person. It should be the 1 + 1 becomes 2, but somehow we've made it mean that true romance, finding your person, you complete me. Again, that language is just so flawed, because it indicates that somehow you can't be complete without that. And I think when you do the work to figure that out and move more and more into radical self-acceptance, you show up more fully in all of your relationships, and are able to love from a much more centered place, as opposed to a place of need and want.
Yeah. And it kind of ties into, you know, sometimes you don't feel like saying the words of affirmation. So let's maybe talk about that. Like, what are some of the challenges you face when maybe you're not feeling it, right?
Well, I'm a master wall builder.
Yeah.
I've been building.
I'm a craftsman.
I am a craftsman.
I'm a bricklayer.
I use
A bricklayer.
literally, though, I use the best bricks and mortar, and I build walls, and it has taken a lot of
Got a
uncomfortable.
project at my house you could help me with. I didn't know
I'm not
this.
providing
Hidden
you an
skills.
active service for that. No. But it's taken a lot of intentional work on my own, but as well as together. So I can still easily fall into the trap of not communicating if I'm upset or irritated. And we laugh sometimes because I'm still learning to use my big girl words
Right.
to chip away at the brick and mortar that I've built over the years.
We're similar in that way. So if I don't feel 100% connected or safe to my partner, it's hard for me to be vulnerable. And I think you're vulnerable when you're giving words of affirmation. So if I'm saying, you know, I'm so in love with you, because that's a vulnerable thing for me. And if I don't feel fully connected, it's not genuine. Those words of affirmation will be like, I think you're neat.
I dig you.
I dig you. Yeah.
I dig you, right? And it just won't be that level.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this one's actually giving words of affirmation is not a difficult one for me. I think I've been an encourager from the young, like as long as I can remember, saying nice things to people, building them up, encouraging them, being loving on you through words of affirmation is easy. You make it easy, but it's easy. That flows readily for me. But like you guys, I'm still working on having those conversations about when it's not like that, when there's something more difficult to say. And part of me, it continues to be the challenge. It's one of the scripts, one of the major life scripts that I'm still very much working on. This is still very much a work in progress, but when others do that, when I feel like I've become needy, and I need other, like people are giving me this support, there's a point where I like it and then I resist it because I've got this major script that I'm still working on of I'm a burden and I don't want to be a burden to other people, and I will literally push them away, or I will back off.
Yep.
Because I feel very comfortable being in the supporting position, affirming someone else. I'm not as comfortable when the roles are reversed.
Yeah. That's probably a lot. I certainly would echo those words of the ability. It does come. I'm pretty comfortable with it. When it's awkward, it's because the logic side of my brain is kind of triggered, and I'm feeling silly saying something, right? Or they know, and it's being more proactive with that. With Wendy, it's easy. I think it's in other relationships. So sometimes she is great with communicating with my girls, for example. And sometimes she'll be like, oh, I've been talking to, or, cheering on, or one of the girls is doing something and she's remembered it. Whether she made a note or she just mentally remembered it, and she'll so excited for what you're doing today. And I'll be like, oh, damn. Yeah, that's right. But it's not something that often will come naturally for me to be doing that for others at that same degree. But that's what you're learning.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Bit of a twist, but I'm going to ask you guys. No, you're prepared for the twist, but it's fine. So you get 3 words, only 3 words. I'm going to hold you to 3 words. 3 words.
Three words
To describe.
Can you do hyphens?
No hyphenated
Can you do
words.
hyphens like
No,
slashes?
No, 3 words.
Okay.
To define your partner. I'm looking at Rob. Rob, you can look at Wendy. It's not prescriptive at all on this show.
Not at all.
Yeah. Wow, this is like out of the blue.
Without even thinking about it.
Let me think of what comes to mind right like spur of the moment, I would say.
So full of shit.
No, definitely empathetic would be right at the top of that list. Certainly, I see it in Wendy. Wendy is an empath and feels, and just I see that not just in the context of our relationship, but in the context of how she sees just about anybody, that deep feeling for things. I'm conscious of it to the point of being careful if I share bad news, a friend or somebody connected to somebody, it can really affect her in that sense. Incredibly loyal would be the second word that I'd use. You certainly is somebody that is just absolutely committed to the people that you are in relationship with, that you surround. You're incredibly a loyal person. I think just incredibly generous. Kind, loving. I'm throwing up more extra words.
More than 3,
you're
Rob.
cheating. You're
Yeah.
cheating.
You're cheating.
Well, Joe, I said
we're
We're gonna scrub those out. We're gonna those get scrubbed out in post.
Those get cut out in post.
It's just gonna go from this awkward break to the next person.
She is generously kind.
Would you stop?
Okay, Wendy. Over to Wendy.
So your words that I've thought very long and hard. But
In this
they
moment.
tie back to your core values. You are deeply, deeply, deeply loyal, exceptionally compassionate. You're one of the most compassionate humans, honestly, I've ever met to anybody, no matter what their walk of life, and generous. Now, I also can tie humorous in there, but you think you're funny, but you're not
Hilarious.
God.
You're funny. You're funny. You're funny as hell.
Wow.
Those are my 3.
I felt really insecure
Those are
in that
great.
moment. I
Yeah,
felt
that
I
was
needed.
4 that she gave, but
That-
Yeah,
you get
okay.
4.
Well, I'm going to give 3.
You're gonna give 3.
So my 3 for you, and I'm not looking at my notes at all.
Wow.
No, but I struggled with this, by the way.
Yeah.
I found it really, really hard
Yeah.
to pull 3 because I probably have like 20 for you, but I'm going to use 3 because those were the rules. Okay. Just looping us back. So for me, you're kind, loving, and dependable. And I know that third one, like for some people might be like, that's an odd one, but I had 3 different meanings for that. But you're so consistent, and you're always someone I can count on. And that is like a superpower. Your heart is as big as they get. Everyone who knows you knows that. And your kindness is overwhelming. So those are my 3.
Thank you, baby. I'm gonna channel my call out now.
No, you're not.
No. So I'm not gonna bend the rules. I'm gonna go back to say something about the last question that I missed because I think it's relevant. One, when I was talking about the difficulty I have depending on others, leaning on others, you're helping me reshape that significantly because you're always a safe place to land and always so supportive. And it was hard as well to just find 3 words, but the ones that I felt at least in this moment, not in this very moment, but as when I was preparing, one is generous, like so generous with your time, your energy, your love, like generosity, just beyond generosity, courageous, your unwillingness to settle, your willingness to take risks, and even when it's fucking hard to follow your heart is something I deeply, deeply admire about you. And fun. You're fun as fuck. Like, so much laughter, so many amazing memories. We just celebrated 2 years together last week. Yeah. And the amount of fun memories that we have created, amazing memories that we created in that short amount of time is just insane. So, yeah. Hugs all around.
Okay, that was one. We're going to pick up the speed a little bit.
I got a little mushy there. I got a little mushy.
Okay,
So
we're going to...
People are throwing up right
Yeah,
now.
they're just like, what are we listening to?
Our producer left the room, I think. Oh, he's back. Steve!
Okay, he's back.
Okay, acts of service. So this is like doing something nice for your partner, but it's also kind of doing it in a way that helps them out, right? So like folding the laundry, taking the dog for a walk, picking up groceries, whatever that looks like in your household. So maybe let's share a time or some memory where you remember when someone, specifically your partner, there was an act of service and how that felt for you.
Well, I'll tell you what wasn't an act of service is when he put the ketchup in the fridge for the first time because
But that's where the ketchup goes.
oh, don't even get me started.
Ketchup
on
Right?
belongs in the fridge.
Right?
No, cold.
It's like, do dishes go in the sink or do they stay on the counter?
No, that's completely different.
Right? Like, that's another question.
No.
Is it pie or is it cake? Like, we all know
loses
it's
this
pie
battle
day.
every time she brings it
No,
up.
but in my mind, I've won, and that's all that really matters.
She thinks that open ketchup goes back in the cupboard.
It's not
It's
ketchup.
It's ketchup.
ketchup.
Can we just,
It's
we're
ketchup.
just off of ketchup.
Ketchup.
Oh, I don't call it ketchup.
When you and I talk after a few days,
Yeah.
we catch up.
Oh,
But when we're putting shit on our hamburger,
yeah, we
Oh,
catch up.
ketchup.
Anyways,
ketchup.
Well, I've always
sorry.
called it ketchup,
This show's
and the
gonna be-
ketchup belongs
in the fridge.
In the
after.
fridge.
Says right
I
on the.
agree.
Yes.
We don't want this show to be
Refrigerate
2 hours
after
long.
opening, isn't it? What it says
we're gonna
right
do a
below?
2-part show.
We're gonna do
Two-part show. Okay, no, in all seriousness, when he took care of me after my hysterectomy, and I say that because we hadn't been dating for that long, and so major surgery like that, where, anyways, I don't need to get into the details, but like I'm wearing a diaper basically, but it was just very compassionate. He didn't make it weird or anything like that, and I just felt very loved.
Yeah, in my mind, I was making it weird.
You- of course you were.
Yeah,
of course
baby,
you were.
get that diaper off.
Right. Wow. You are a sick man. Like, I love you, but you're a sick man. I gotta change gears. I gotta do mine.
we're gonna-
You regroup over there, and I'm gonna do mine. One of the things I deeply appreciate about Kate is how she keeps us so organized. So details are not my thing. I'm not a details person, and if I don't write shit down, if I don't put it in my calendar, like, and as I get older, forget about it. I'm not details focused. It's just not the way my brain is wired. And the two of us, we don't live together. We live in, so between the two of us have 2 households to manage, and I deeply appreciate, for example, leading the charge on organizing the trip, planning all the details and plans for Gabby's wedding in the south of France later this year. And when we love to travel, we love to get away, and often you're leading the charge most of the time on the details, and that matters so much to me. You're good at it, and I just love that you do that.
Thank you. Yeah. If I pick one example, I love planning, by the way. I'll still remember it. It's the first time you mowed my lawn. And I literally mean like outside with grass mowing. I just want to clarify.
Hey! And the show just went all because I remember the first time I mowed your lawn. I didn't think we'd be talking about this on the show, but since we're opening up, shall we go to detail? I'll definitely be channeling Carlisle.
So there was grass.
Oh, there's
There's grass involved. You've gone so far away. Okay. Whew.
we're talking actual grass, actual lawn, and the lawnmower.
Right.
I'm gonna lose it.
And in her notes, it says it was the beginning of letting someone in. Sorry, I said
That's when she first let me in.
Making notes.
Oh my God! Where
Yeah,
did
this
that-
this
that's
whole
fine.
segment is going to be gone from
Oh.
the final show.
That's fine.
Perfect.
Okay,
People
Yeah.
will laugh.
but it is the first time that I emotionally let you in because we were trying to get somewhere, and I remember you were at my house, and I'm like, well, I have to work, and then I got to do this, and then I got to mow the lawn. And you're like, well, I'll just mow the lawn for you while you do everything else. And I'm like, no, like I can mow my own lawn.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm aware. He's
I
like,
remember reminding you that it's not. I don't doubt your ability to
Yeah.
mow the lawn. You're super busy. I could take that.
We
off
do
of
that
you.
though as women, right?
Oh,
We're like,
my
no, I
God.
can do it.
yeah.
Fine, I got it.
And I've been doing it alone for like 7 years at that point. So I was like, no, I'll figure it all out. And I remember when you did it and I was like, whoa, I forgot what it's like to have a partner and someone that you can.
Yeah, I love that. So I think
Plus, I
that's-
think she called me. I'm going to interrupt you because I don't want to miss this moment. She did comment later that she liked having a yard boy now.
I did.
yes,
Yeah.
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 Well,
I bet you did.
I really did.
yeah,
Yeah.
that you can mow
Yeah.
the lawn and let her in. Yeah. But I like that the sense of the partnership, right? And I would go back to
Yeah.
certainly, when it comes to our trips, planning that stuff, the communication with the kids. So much of that is stuff that she just jumps in and does so well, and it takes that pressure off the need to have to do it. Yeah, I love that.
Okay. So on that, if you could invent an act of service to make your partner's life a little better, what would you invent?
Someone to do all of his paperwork.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that would just be amazing.
Mm.
You're not
I hate it.
super organized with paperwork, like you hate it. Your desk kind of gives me a rash sometimes because there's stuff
happening?
everywhere.
That's when,
Sitting on the desk.
when we're mowing the lawn on the desk.
Right.
You get the rash.
Right.
Oh my God.
On my rack.
Wow. This is deteriorating
No, but
fast.
someone to do all this paperwork.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like for me, it was literally, I
Yeah.
would want someone to help you out, like Eric out, so that you don't get so like in the weeds of everything in your day to day, but you can actually focus on what you love, which is
Yeah.
like the ideating and the strategy.
Yeah.
Like if I could like manifest an
Yeah.
act of service to you, that would be it.
Yeah. I would, we recently, one of the things I think I recommend to most people if they've got the means is get someone to clean your house for you. You want to talk about like not having to worry about that. And so we 2 households, so we have 2 cleaners and getting you a cleaner just
Oh my
to help
God.
with the day to day.
Huge.
But I would add to that limo service with chauffeur to help you shuttle all the kids around to all the various activities. And the other be a personal assistant to help you just with a lot of your day-to-day stuff.
And it's funny,
Funny, huh?
the 4 of us are very much wired the same way when it comes to work and all of that. The focus of what we do, which is probably why what we're coming up with here is very similar around the personal assistance and everything.
Yeah.
Wendy's navigating so many different hats, whether it's with the gym and at the house and the living richly and then the real life stuff. There's so many things that have somebody that helps just kind of come in and keep all of that on track and organized can be overwhelming.
We should hire a virtual assistant, a personal
Yeah.
assistant, and split them 4 ways.
Done.
Great.
Okay. That would
All
be-
right.
Okay.
Right, we're now accepting donations through Living Richly. Please support our journey. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding. Send money to Rob Dale.
No.
No, send it to me.
No,
No, send it to Rob. He's
I don't
you look confused.
I'm waiting for you to finish.
Okay.
We'll put his address in the show notes.
I'm going to move us along because
Yes.
we're running out of time
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
We almost do need 2 episodes for this. Okay,
Yeah.
so the next one, receiving gifts. And I think for all of us, this isn't like a super high one. It's not high on our list. But when we talk about receiving gifts, it doesn't mean that you necessarily like love getting gifts. It means that you really appreciate the thought that went into the gifts.
Yeah.
So
that's what a great reframe, because I've often understood it as more about the gift itself. People appreciate the things that they get, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you add to it, it's more appreciating the thought that went into it. That really sheds some light on it.
It does, and yet for me, even that doesn't raise the appreciation of it. Like
if you're going to rank them,
if I was going to rank them, receiving gifts versus receiving experiences is. Yeah, that language alone would shift that one so much for me. I do appreciate more when somebody's put thought into something that they've given me. Yes, very much. That's much more meaningful than just a random gift that somebody might do. But it's something that is not. It's definitely my lowest when I rank all of these. And even for me, with Wendy, I probably do this more than I've ever done this with any human being ever. Is I put a lot of thought. I put a lot of pressure on myself I really want her to feel special from the gift that I give her. Now, neither one of us is that as high on our list, and we often Christmas stuff like that. Like we don't do gifts for each other for some of those because for us it's not needed. Let's just spend time together or whatever. But that would be how I approach the receiving gifts one.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you were going to give a gift, like what's something you would put some thought into? Like what's a gift that you would like, how do you go about that, Rob? Like you're thinking about it. You're like, I really want to get something special for Wendy. What do you like, what goes on for you in that moment? Because I think a lot of people struggle when it comes to giving gifts.
Yeah.
Like for me,
it comes naturally for you.
Well, for me, yeah. So I really like giving gifts.
I know you are so thoughtful. I know the most prized things you've ever got me. We're not big on stuff either. We're more on experiences too, but are the photo albums you regularly put together, gets them professionally printed. And you did one for like our first year together. You did one for Jamaica, our trip to Jamaica. And when I had to give Xena up, which was an older dog that was really in bad shape, and I fostered her for a while, but couldn't continue to care for her because the level of care she needed was far beyond what I could do. I remember one of the things you did not long after that, she made a personalized album, all pictures of Xena. Just the thought and attention that goes into that. I don't think there's any gift I've ever gotten in my entire life that has had the same type of resonance, because I know the level of care and attention you put into that and the time required to do it. So always super meaningful for me.
Wow. Yeah. I love doing them as much. Like I love giving gifts, but really meaningful, thoughtful gifts. I'm not the person who gives you like, there's a time and a place for a bottle of bubbly or champagne, but if it's a meaningful gift, to me, that's something you take your time with. You think through like, okay, what's something they're really passionate about, and then take time to think about what that could look like as a gift. Like, and we've talked about this quite a bit. And so, for me, I love doing it.
And it's tricky. Again, if you're not, I think part of that is personality style, the way one is wired. Again, that comes really natural to you. It's like your superpower. For me, I have to work at it. I think like you, I have to work at it.
What are some ideas?
Well, I mean, sometimes for ideation, that's not a bad idea. Like sometimes you just struggle.
Google.
Right.
I'll
but
Google.
Early on in our relationship, I asked you what kind of flowers you like. And I know it's tulips and lilies are some of your favorite flowers, right? And so regularly get you flowers that feature those. And I have a great florist who puts together these great modern arrangements.
Oh my God, this florist is amazing.
Yeah, she's really, really great. But I know one of the things I've had to work on and came to realize is even think special days like birthdays and things like that. For me, they were never a big deal, right? Like they just weren't, they come and go, and you kind of give it some notice, but you have one every year, right? And even some holidays, right? And realizing that for you, these moments meant a lot more. Yeah. And so knowing that now, stepping up my game. So again, this is what is important to her. I want to serve her need. So even though it's not important to me or not as important to me, then, I want to serve her. And so I have now reminders months ahead of time in my calendar to prompt me to start thinking about it, start planning it. Because I'm also, like I said, I'm not a planner. I'm an anti-planner. I'm like, oh, what do you want to do tonight? I'm like, that's how I show up. But that sometimes gets me in trouble.
And I appreciate that, because that's the effort. And so when you see the effort, that's really what matters. Okay, I'm going to move us along. Next one, quality time. Quality time's a big one, and quality time really means spending time together. Obviously, that's the quality, but also removing, like, it's that connected time. So maybe the two of you, I'm looking at you, Wendy and Rob, across the table for everyone listening, but how do you guys carve out that time together? And how do you like sort of avoid the distractions that always creep in?
Yeah. Well, and so I think this has evolved for both of us over the years, in our former life before we got together, because of our, you've mentioned it before. I've mentioned it before, where we've consumed so much in our work, in our former lives, and really being intentional with setting boundaries for ourselves. We walk and talk a lot. So it's not like fancy stuff like, yes, trips are nice and all that kind of stuff where you're away and you're spending time together, but we walk and talk a lot. We have a husky dog. She's high energy. We knew that when we got her. And a big component of our day, every day, is to walk and talk. It allows us to keep us connected. And we also do that at night, not with the dog. But, at night before we go to sleep, we have that time where we are lying in bed, facing each other and sharing about our days, and having those moments of connection is huge.
Even stuff, we bought a fire pit for the very purpose of just enjoying now being out on the deck. And there are certainly nights where, we're maybe busy or doing something else, and Wendy will just say, hey, why don't you grab a cigar and let's go sit on the deck, right? Well, you just say cigar and deck, and I'm like, let's do it, right? But the nice thing, and again, this is with the cigar, you're now committing to sitting outside for
good 90 minutes.
Exactly. A good hour to 2 hours. And so now you're engaging. We may still be doing a little bit of other stuff, but we're engaging in those conversations.
Yeah. We from the moment we met, I still remember that first night, our first date, we had, was nervous. And I remember you stepping out of your vehicle from across the street, and I was like, woof, it's beautiful, right? Like right away, it was like, wow. And we sat down, and it was our first date, and you never know how those things are going to go. And we met around 6:30. I think it was about the time we met at Kelly's Landing. In Manotick. And then before we knew it, they were putting the chairs up on the tables. We literally shut the place down and talked for hours. And that's been our story from the get-go. We do a lot of great things together, right? Yeah. But our conversations, and perhaps because we don't live together, we don't take that for granted, because we're not together all the time.
Yeah,
right?
Point.
There's weeks where we might see each other once or twice.
I've seen you twice in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks I've been traveling, and I was sick this week, so we didn't see each other much. Yeah. So it just means that those moments are even more powerful. And I think one of the things you and I have learned to do, or learning to do more and more, is control of our devices.
No, it's
putting
huge.
Them away, right?
Yeah, we've empowered each other to say, like, you have full power to tell me at any moment to put my phone down. Yeah. Like, you call me out, or I call you out, and I'll be like, hey, like, I'm trying to have a conversation. Nicely. I say it nicer than that. I do. I'd be like,
yo, dude,
what the fuck?
Can you put the phone down? But yeah, we do that. And I think because we do that, it's like, and really what I'm saying, or what you're saying by put the phone down, is I'm trying to connect, and you're somewhere else. And so I think the ability to be able to cut out the noise is super important.
I love what you said there about even the notion of, because a lot of couples, when you do live together and when you're around, you're seeing each other all the time like that, you can fall into the trap if you don't. Quality time has to be protected. And I like what
Yeah.
you said at the beginning. It's not time together, it's quality time together.
Yeah.
And it's being deliberate where now there are times where our time together is just literally sitting beside each other and we're both reading.
Yeah.
That's still quality.
Or watching a movie or doing something.
watching a
Totally.
movie.
Yeah.
But having those deliberate moments where we say, no, everything else is put aside and it's just us. They're not just going to happen. We have to really be deliberate
Be
with
really
them
intentional.
and intentional with them.
Yeah, we do the same thing. So in addition to the phones, both of us are very passionate about what we do. I think all four of us are passionate about what we
Yeah.
do. But we talk a lot about work. We both have that. We love to create where we've got that entrepreneurial nature. And so, yeah, there'll be lots of conversations about work, but we've also given each other permission to say, hey, tonight, can we not talk about that? Can we set that aside? Because it's easy to get into, for anyone to get into a habit. You're connecting, but you're only connecting partially.
100%. Okay, I'm going to move us. We have one left, physical touch.
Oh, I like this one.
Yeah. Why?
I am now.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about physical touch, obviously a part of every relationship, but this can be like, intimacy and just even sometimes just a simple hug, right?
Yeah.
And I know for us, one thing that shows up is really, when I read this, I was fascinated by it, but there's something around 6 seconds of a hug or 6 seconds when you kiss. That's after 6 seconds is when the oxytocin is released, and that's your happy drug.
Yeah.
So like we even will hug each other now and we joke or we're kissing and I'm like, were you counting? Like 1, 2, 3, like can you do the beginning? But that is now something we're mindful about it. And so when we hug, there is that minimum sort of 6 seconds.
Well, what it does, because it's so easy again to get into a routine where it's quick hug, quick kiss, on to the next thing in the day, out the door and out the door.
Yeah.
It forces you, it encourages you to slow down and truly connect in that moment. Look into each other's eyes, just like that, holding you for longer than that typical quick pat hug on the way out the door creates something. And it's for me, physical touch is huge. Always has been. It's still my number one spot. There's something about the closeness, the intimacy, and again, whether that be like just chilling or we're talking about like sex and the whole enjoyment of each other that way, because you're as sexy as fuck. I've said it to you many times. I'm going to say it officially on the show. But physical touch is huge, and it's about a sharing of energy. It's more than the physical. There is, I told you from the get-go, one of the things I was impressed about you from the moment I met you was your vibe, your energy. And we've talked about this, like when we're together, there's a recharge that happens for both of us. And that can happen through conversation, but usually I've got my a hand on your lap or we're sitting close together. Yeah. There is something about that keeps a relationship, I think, vibrant and alive and healthy.
Yeah. Physical touch is huge for me. It's actually my number one love language. And it's not something I've historically been used to in a genuine and authentic way. I think that evolves over time as you go through your 20s, 30s, and 40s. But there are literally times when Rob touches me. And a lot of it is just holding my hand or like even right now, he's holding my hand under the table here, but my eyes will get misty because of the power of his touch. And, sexual touch, that's on a different level, but the day to day, whether it's hugging, holding my hand, just those, when he touches my face, that's huge for me as well. But yeah, that.
Well, let's face it. Like we're, I don't know if we're shy about it, whatever. But the reality is that sex starts long before the bedroom. Right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Absolutely.
I think when there's not enough physical touch in the day to day, just that intimacy, that connection, right? The emotional connection, the physical connection. That can impact the sex life of any couple, right? I think when you're making the effort, when you're making that intention, you're being intentional about connecting regularly through touch, it enhances your sexual relationship, takes it to a whole other level, because it's like you've been engaging in foreplay all week long, or all day long, or all afternoon long, or when is the show, when are we done recording so we can go home kind of thing.
But it's different for women and men.
It is
right?
different.
Women need more of that emotional component. I'm like, we're not just ready just like that. Like men are sometimes like, we need,
Ron and I just gave each other the nod, like, man, I'm kind of ready now. I don't know.
6 seconds, endorphins get released in 8 seconds.
I'm thinking Carlisle is thinking about Loretta.
Oh no.
But I think what you bring up is a good point. Like sex starts long before the bedroom, right? And it's something that can fall apart very quickly in a relationship if that emotional component is not there.
I think because it demonstrates like ongoing affection, right?
Absolutely.
Every relationship will have ups and downs, and sometimes your sexual activity is increased, other times not. Like we go through seasons, right? And that's just life. But that connection, that affection that is demonstrated, there's a safety, there's a comfort in that. Yep. There's this is my person, and they're making the effort to demonstrate that openly, right? And I get that for some people, this one is actually a very hard one, especially if they've come from a background of abuse and the rest of it. And yet physical touch is the way I think we're wired as human beings to respond to it. I think of Loki, my dog, and I'm like, we call him an attention whore. This dog, like he is a COVID dog, and his need for affection is like through the roof. Yeah, but he responds so well to
where the people are. That's what I always say.
That's Loki's theme song, right? But even in the animal kingdom, animals respond well to physical touch for the most part, unless you're trying to pet a hungry lion. That probably is not wise. But
maybe don't.
Don't pet the hungry lion.
Don't do it.
No, don't.
I think I'm going to wrap us up there. I think that was a lot to get through in one show. Yeah. We'll definitely add to the show notes, how you can access 5 love languages. Honestly, just Google it. You'll come up with
so much.
There's so many online surveys you can take that just kind of help you identify which bucket you're in.
And since Gary Chapman's work, now, if you Google, actually look it up, there are far more ways to demonstrate affection than just the 5 demonstrated here. Yeah. We just chose to use this model as a simple way to get the conversation started. I think at the end of the day, it's figure out what your partner needs and make that effort to give them more of that and let that be reciprocal.
Don't decide for your partner.
Right.
Ask them.
You gotta ask them. Don't guess.
Conversation. Don't guess. Don't decide for them. Ask them.
But this is something great to do together.
Yeah.
As well. And then to sit like we did ours together, to sit and then dissect it together and kind of figure out what that means for both of you and talk it through.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a great discussion as always. Please like, share, and subscribe, and check out our website, livingrichley.me, where you can sign up for our Facebook group. The Living Richly Nation is exploding, growing every single day. Amazing conversations happening. And also on our website, livingrichley.me, I'm going to say it again, you can sign up for our 15-day Life Vision Challenge. This is an amazing free course that you can do on your own time at your own pace, and will help you map out a vision for where you want your life to go. So as always, get out there, and until next time, continue living your best life.